Game loaded.
Hi, and welcome to an edition of Lessons Learned with your host, Rafael Piñero. I could go on and on and on about the Mass Effect 3 ending, as suggested by the title. I could list all the reasons why Lara K. Dale from Destructed UK is wrong in her defense of the Mass Effect 3 ending. However, I don't think that is important anymore, to be honest. It's been talked to death. It's being argued back and forth on a gazillion YouTube videos, on blog posts, on comment sections, etc., etc., etc. I've become curious the reason why we feel the need to keep discussing this. Why the ending has such a big impact on those who experienced it years after it came out. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. First of all is the reason why different people played Mass Effect 3 and the whole Mass Effect series. The first part of it is that people like Lara K. Dale, as she admitted in a recent Podquisition podcast, got into the games because of the characters. They like the characters, they like the interaction with the characters, they may also like the romance angle, etc., etc. Love of character. That's why they're there. That's the primary motivation for playing the games. Other people like myself have different motivations, such as the exploration of the setting, the lore, maybe getting into the game mechanic, etc. Doesn't mean that people who like characters don't like the gameplay, or people who like the setting don't like the characters. They just have different focus on their experience. And that means that when it comes to the ending, they expected different things. Her expectations were fulfilled by the ending. My expectations simply were not. And that, I think, is crucial to the whole discussion. We have to understand where the people are coming from in order to understand what they're trying to argue. But there's another part to it as well, is that we're no longer actually arguing about the ending itself. We're arguing about the emotions elicited by the ending. We're trying to make logical, critical discussions about emotional states, and trying to convince other people that the way we feel is the right way to feel about the ending. And that is never really going to work. If someone is not only not ready, receptive to what you're trying to say, emotionally speaking, they are in fact going to do the opposite. They're going to reject your arguments on a purely gut level, because they're going to feel that A, you're trying to invalidate their emotions, and B, override said emotional state. So that's not going to work. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are talking to each other or across each other, but not really convincing each other of any one point. So you can have these arguments go back and forth, and it never goes anywhere. People who liked it, people who hated it. There is a third point I like to bring out, and I think this whole situation could have been avoided, because I think BioWare, and specifically the designers of Mass Effect 3, screwed up by going and ending too far, if you will. They had to set up for at least an adequate ending in the game itself. The moment the Shepard goes to the console and presses the button to activate the Crucible, that should have been the ending, right? After that, we should have seen whether the Crucible works or not. We could have seen a gamut of endings, from it doesn't do anything to a perfect ending where everybody gets to live and all the Reapers are destroyed and the screen is flooded with puppies and flowers and everything in between, right? But we didn't. We got an extra scene with stuff that, to be honest, we didn't need. And the proof is in the happy ending mod, which basically edits out all the content around the Starbrat. See, I think that's the best and strongest criticism that can be leveled against the ending. It was unnecessary. It could have been edited out. It was, ironically, I think, designed to please people like me by giving an explanation to what the Reapers were doing, but in the process, it was so poorly done that it angered us. And it's like, well, this doesn't make any sense, etc., etc. And it wasn't necessary because the people who wanted other things, like closure from the characters, would have gotten it from a completely different way. Either they already had it when they talked to the characters before the actual ending, or in the case of the extended cut, they would get a sequence saying, oh, this person lived and this person died. It's very simple. And yet, the ending itself, because it didn't do any of that, had a tendency to upset everyone. I think what also keeps, at least me, upset about the whole thing is how BioWare dealt with the issue. I think more EA than BioWare. If you look at the DLC after the fact, for example, Leviathan was designed to sort of bring me back to the fold. And here's a nice retcon that explains everything that we said on the on the ending, and also parts of the extended cut. But again, it's one of those things that the more you question the ending and the logic behind it, the worse it gets. And then came the Citadel DLC and the other part of the extended cut, where basically BioWare said, you know what, we only care about the people who are here for the characters and the romances, and everyone else can just, and to be honest, this is how I feel, can fuck off. So I think that's also, at least with me, part of the reasons why I feel the way I feel about the ending. I feel that it was mismanaged in multiple ways. They had a good ending, not a perfect ending in the game, but decided to just ignore it and keep on going. And a final problem is that we don't know why they did it. There's a lot of talk about vision and, developers, sorry they wanted to tell, etc. But nobody has come on and said, we did this because of this. We have to infer from the mangled mess that is what we ended up with. And the extended cut just made it even worse. In fact, the designers refused to explain why they did what they did. Not that they have to, but it would help. So at the end of the day, we're facing a discussion that has nothing to do with the ending itself, but how we feel about the ending, how the ending was managed or mismanaged by BioWare and Electronic Arts. And without a clear answer why it happened the way it happened, this discussion will go on forever and a day. So, a final note, I'm right, she's wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Well, if you like this video or any other video in my channel, please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Good night.